But Vice Prime Minister, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you and a hearty welcome to this public talk by Vice Prime Minister Ivanna Klympush-Tsintsadze here at the Norwegian Institute of International Affairs today. My name is Helge Blakkisrud and I have the pleasure to chair this morning's event. Ms. Klympush-Tsintsadze has a background from journalism, from the NGO sector and from politics. She has, among other things, in her impressive career, been the first deputy head of the Rada's Foreign Affairs Committee. And since April last year, she has been Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine with a special responsibility for Euro integration and Euro-Atlantic integration. And today, she will talk about the Ukrainian reform agenda and explain why Ukraine's achievements is important for the wider interests of Europe and the Euro-Atlantic community. And we look very much forward to your talk. Vice Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Does it work? Did I manage? Okay. Dear guests, dear friends, dear colleagues, excellencies, thank you very much for this opportunity of being here and talking to you today. I'm very thrilled with this invitation of the Norwegian Institute for International Affairs, and I hope that we will have a very frank and open discussion here today. I want to start with something maybe a bit unusual. I wanted to thank Norway for the TV series Occupied, right? Occupied, I'm trying. Occupied. I think, why I'm mentioning this, I think that this TV series, being a horrifying, rather, science fiction, being science fiction but horrifying science fiction, is actually does present a much better understanding than many of the threats that we are right now standing up in front of, and it has more strength than quite a few of the analytical reports that have been presented in the latest years. And it has better and deeper understanding what are the instruments, what are the mechanisms, and what might be the mechanism and threats that unfortunately are being used very widely right now, and what Ukrainians have seen for themselves when the illegal annexation of Crimea has started back in 2014, when the aggression in the east of Ukraine has started by the Russian Federation. We do believe that Ukraine 3 years ago has settled down for a pace of transformation and of reforms that has never been existent basically in the world. Why do I say that, and why do I think so? Because first and foremost, well, the trigger for the reforms was not the decision of some wise rulers of some group of small or circled group of people. That was a decision of people that decided that they clearly want to take another civilizational choice and finally to rejoin the European family of countries, of nations, where they have belonged to during all their history for hundreds of years. I do think that the experience of changes and transitions in the world, they are extensive, and we all know that, and we all are studying all these experiences, and we are all watching them very closely. But to do the transition, to make the transition during the act of aggression of another state, during the war, and also making the changes at the same time, trying to deal with deep economic crisis, and also trying to deal with, to fight against the state Soviet old type of bureaucracy, that topping the aggression is making it absolutely unique case. And you know, quite a few people are pointing out to us that there is an Israeli experience. And I think that Israeli experience is not demonstrative. Ukraine is not getting support from outside just for being there, and it's not getting support just because it is good or it is bad or it is moving in some direction. It is getting support from the nations, like financial support from the nations, because it is making transformation and because it is changing, because it is moving in the direction that the people have chosen to go. If you think of Israeli experience, just the recent deal that was the recent memorandum between the U.S. and Israel which was signed, it provides for 38 billion US dollars in aid for Israel for 10 years. So which means 3.8 billion every single year, and that spending also for the military capabilities of Israel, and that is topping on something that was working before. The memorandum which was working before is like 3.1 billion per year of support, and that's from one country. And Ukraine right now is fulfilling the memorandum of understanding with IMF, which foresees for 4 years, if successfully going through the transformation, something up to $17 billion. So we just for you to understand the scope and the level of support and the level, and again, this is a credit money that we are receiving as support. So actually, Ukraine is fighting two wars at this point. It is fighting the war, the pretty hot war, opposing the aggression of the Russian Federation, and the so-called, I would say, colder but equally important war against the colonial heritage, against corruption, against bureaucracy, against authoritarianism, against weak institutions and poor management as such. However, something that is being forgotten from time to time is that we are fighting this hot war actually in full compliance with international principles and international law, and with all the using all the instruments of politics and diplomacy to the fullest, and we are following all the international agreements as opposed to the aggressor, and international standards and regulations. With regard to the second battle that we are fighting, this war on transition, internal transition of the country, we are also doing it in compliance with the democratic procedures and the rule of law, and this is very important because the country that has chosen to become the equal part of Europe cannot do otherwise, and it cannot use the radical or authoritarian methods in order to change itself. But all of that takes time, and such experience does not exist in the world in combined atmosphere, in combined version. And so there are no ready recipes, and but there is a request of the society to move ahead. There is a pressure of the society to move ahead and to build the country with ensured democracy, with developed European economic market economy with protected human rights. And therefore, we are moving in the direction rapidly, and we are moving it in this direction in the most difficult situation, security situation for ourselves during our newest history, and we are trying to catch up with the lost quarter of the century of our newest history. Regarding the war against Russian Federation, and basically against Russian aggression on our territory, we are not fighting the war somewhere outside of the country. We're just trying to protect ourselves. I'm convinced that you very well, this audience, is very well aware of what's going on, and just I will take this opportunity to use as a reminder of 10,000 Ukrainian deaths that have been experienced over these 3 years, 22,500 of wounded Ukrainians that have been injured, that have suffered during this conflict and are suffering and are continuing to suffer, and more than 1.8 million of internally displaced people. And I want to remind everybody that we did not contribute to any of the migration waves and migration crisis in Europe, notwithstanding the fact that we have such a huge number. If you just think, it's almost half of Norway that is being internally displaced inside of Ukraine. So, and I think that the conflict that we are right now experiencing, the hybrid war, which wasn't invented today, it wasn't invented this, in the latest decade. It has been practiced before, but these methods have been used in previous centuries. But right now, the hybrid conflict that we are finding ourselves in is reinforced by the information technologies. It is reinforced by the globalization of informational space, and therefore, I think it does become much more dangerous, and it has more instruments and more flexibility at hand to influence the target of this hybrid war. I think if we do not fully understand and if we do not fully comprehend the nature of this Russian aggression, and should we fail to choose effective measures to respond together to this aggression, then the world civilization will be helpless in the further years, because we will see more and more in the further decades. We will see more and more of conflicts of this type appearing in the world. And I think that this war that we are finding ourselves in is not about some specific country, and it's not about some specific topic. It's about it's not about economic benefits. It's not about religion or oil or territorial gains. I think it is about control. It is about control, and it's about rolling back the time. It's about dividing the world anew. And it has some very specific features that probably can be outlined already today. And I'm sure that there are quite a few researchers going on what's happening right now in Ukraine, and some lessons could be drawn for the whole international community, how we can be more efficient in trying to deal with such threat and with such conflict. I think this the hybrid conflict of the 21st century is basically targeting not a specific state, but it's targeting right now the international order, the globally agreed international order, generally accepted rules that have been guiding the international security up to date. Doesn't it threaten the UN, the UN Charter? Doesn't it threaten the Yalta system? I think it obviously directly threatens also the Budapest Memorandum, which is very serious, or had to be a very serious part of non-proliferation regime in the world. So I think all of these international norms, which ensured and guaranteed the state's sovereignty and territorial integrity, have been shaken by this particular conflict. And yes, it didn't appear today. If we were more efficient in reacting to the aggression of the Russian Federation against Georgia in 2008, I think we could have prevented the situation with Ukraine in 2014. Therefore, depending on how we manage and how we withheld this situation with aggression of Russian Federation against Ukraine, I think it will depend whether we will see the new threats in the other parts of the world, and new challenges presented by the power that decided to reintroduce itself all over the world. This conflict combines the use of the military force and informational, political, economic measures, and I'm sure that you are aware of that. But it threatens basically the very basic, the very fabric of the democratic societies and the social grounds of this Western civilization. And this conflict is using, and this hybrid nature of this conflict allows to use different instruments simultaneously: the use of post-truth in the media, the financial support of the political parties of the right and left wing in all in most of the European states, different movements in Europe, manipulative analytics to an extent by financial support also to some specific think tanks, and experts and just individual experts. So all of this is at hand, and all of this is being widely used. And I would say that even chronic phase in such conflict is a threat, because even in the absence of the active military hostility, the use of so-called, controlled instruments of conflict escalation threatens every single day the state that is trying to protect itself. So it's targeted against depletion of the ability of the state to protect itself. And just the latest events where while we are trying to settle for a roadmap in implementation of Minsk agreements, and we have been supposedly agreeing the whole idea of the roadmap back in autumn of 2016 in the Normandy format, and supposedly the Russian Federation has agreed to that. But since then we have seen very clear actions which are pointing to the neglection of this agreement. Over the 3 years after the conflict has started, there have been 9 clear attempts of agree and establish the ceasefire. All of them have been neglected by the Russian Federation. The latest attempt was the 1st of April. As of 1st of April, we have had from the occupied territories 750 shellings on the residential areas, on the civilian infrastructure, which does not help and does not provide for the security on the ground in order to move any step forward or half a step forward in implementation of the political agenda of Minsk. Want to remind that exactly in these months some other decisions were taken by the Russian Federation that do not show any willingness to resolve the conflict, like recognition of the documents of the so-called self-announced republics in the eastern part of the People's Republics in the eastern part of Ukraine, the introduction of the ruble zone on that territory, the expropriation of the Ukrainian enterprises on that territory. So all of this is not something that is helping, and it's stopping again this shellings, everyday shellings coming from the residential, also coming from the residential areas of Donetsk, where they have put their multiple rocket launch systems, and where they are firing from on the territory controlled by the Ukrainian government. So against this backdrop, and besides such a significant factor as Russian Federation's aggression, Ukraine is moving forward with reforms. And yes, maybe we are not satisfied with the pace, with the speed, but I think reforms are the marathon and they are not a sprint. And reforms are being in the society that has not been reformed, in the country that has not been reformed for such a long period of time. This effort is really encompassing and is really of wide nature. And the government right now, after the Revolution of Dignity, we have had, it's already the 3rd government that is in place, and but all these 3 governments have been are basically representing same political forces and are implementing the programs which are following on each other. So it's not that the country has been changing any course since the Revolution of Dignity. And our major focus is right now for this coming year is the public administration reform, a continuation of the decentralization, deregulation, promotion of investment climate, creating transparent mechanism of public procurement, or rather continuing creation of this mechanism, and reforms in judicial, law enforcement, and tax systems. We also have pointed out for ourselves that we have to go very deeply about very specific healthcare system reform, education reform, security and defense reform. So it's about everything. It's about everything, and starting to fix and fixing the country along with protecting the country from the international aggression. So let me just point out several major achievements that I believe that could not have been imagined a couple of years ago. Over this 3 years period of time, we have managed to build from the sole idea of having anti-corruption institutions. We have actually drafted the laws, adopted the laws, foreseen the budgetary support from the government for work of this anti-corruption bodies. We did conduct open, transparent competitions for choosing people to work in the anti-corruption bodies. We have trained them with the support of our international partners, and now we have them fully operational. And we are expecting them to deliver results already this year. And also we have started unprecedented, in our newest history, judicial reform, which was triggered by the constitutional changes last year. And I think that will be the kind of the major point in this anti-corruption effort, when the new judges will be becoming operational. And right now we are in the process of selection of the Supreme Court judges, and by the end of May we will have the new Supreme Court fully functional in Ukraine, which I think will ensure the whole cycle, when you have the bodies that are preventing corruption, investigating corruption, and then dealing in the court, which is really based on the rule of law and does not have any other interests, as it was the case over the years. Ukraine has actually introduced the new patrol police, and this has been a kind of a business card of a very positive change, widely accepted by the country. It means that in 32 cities, 12,000 new policemen have started to work. And that means that they had to be chosen, had to be trained, had to be equipped. There we are also very grateful for the support from international partners for making this possible, but this is already a really serious shift that we see in the society. Ukraine has taken a very serious decisions in banking sector. Over this 3 years of our history, we have closed 87 out of 180 banks, which means that 87 banks have really been insolvent banks, which means that we did not really have a banking system up to the date. So closing half of our banks, that creates additional serious social tension, but at the same time it does pave the way for a more stable banking system, and it is paving the way of helping us to regain the trust of the people to the banking system. We have, for the first time in our history, we have brought the energy prices for both households and for the enterprises to the import parity level. And for the first time in 12 years, I believe, 12 years, we have the Naftogaz, our company that is responsible for all the energy provisions, profitable. So we have paid hundreds of millions of hryvnias every single year to support for budgetary support to support this company, which had deficit. And for the first time, we have in 2016 we have it profitable. We are using the profits from this company we have the budget improvement, and we have also the possibility to pay the subsidies to those people who are in most needs. So with regard to public procurement, so it's the anti-corruption effort of Ukraine. It's not only about building anti-corruption institutions, because it's about closing the gaps and closing the loops which we're allowing for corruption efforts. One actually being in energy sphere that I've just mentioned about. Another one is by introduction of the electronic public procurement system last year, which has become obligatory as of 1st of August of 2016. We have managed to actually, only by this half of the year, to save about 10% of what was foreseen for the public procurement in the budget for public procurement, which means that we have closed yet another hole, yet another possibility for corruption activities, and I think these are very telling stories. Business environment did improve, and because we did also cancel the about 40% of permits and about 87 certificates, which were some of them, quite a few of them, have been operational since the Soviet times as well. So the Ukrainian economy, the effects of the reforms usually are not immediately translating into result. And in Ukrainian situation, we see how the economy is recovering. By the end of 2016, we have had the growth of 2.2% of GDP, while I want just a tiny reminder, in 2014, the fall of GDP was 7%, in 2015, 9.9%, so basically 10% of fall, so which means that we are finally getting back to the recovery, and that will translate into well-being of the people. The projection for 2017 is 2.3% of GDP. Yes, it is modest, but considering the fact where we are coming from, and that we are paying 5.65% of our GDP to security and defense sector. And that this money could have been used very positively for the development of the country, for new working places. But we right now have to deviate these resources from the economy in order to be capably defending ourselves. One of the latest steps that have been taken just a month ago is introduction of the automatic VAT return system. The VAT returns have been the issues that have been poisoning our business environment, and that have been causing quite a lot of concerns and dissatisfaction for the international companies operating in Ukraine. But finally, we have found a way to deal with this issue. And I think this is yet another step of improving the business environment in Ukraine, and thus not only coming to the 30th place in the world for the opening of business, but also going much better, doing much better on the indexes of doing business, not only opening business in Ukraine. So Ukraine is in the state of transition, and we believe that it is in the interest not only of Ukrainian people to become successful. Yes, we are major stakeholders, and what we are doing inside of our reforms and of our transition, and what we are doing in Ukraine, it's not that we are doing it because Brussels wants us to do so, or not because Washington wants us to do so. It's because we, as Ukrainian people, demand and want to see our country compatible with other European countries, where we see how the system functions, where we see how the system ensures the well-being of people and guarantee of their rights and freedoms. And freedom means really a lot for Ukrainians that have been fighting for freedom and that have started in 2014 paying a very high price for that, for our civilizational choice, and that have contributed to not only right now, not only defending ourselves. We are not defending ourselves only. We are defending Europe. We are defending the values. And for us, the strategic goal that we have put for ourselves, like joining NATO, at some point when we are ready, when NATO is ready, this is not about a guarantee of security. It is about being able to defend common values together. And we are today already an eastern outpost of NATO. We are today a real eastern flank that is ensuring that values that we share are standing protected. And Ukraine does offer at the same time a lot of possibilities. And I think that this is some of the terra incognita that has not been yet opened for a lot of even close countries. Ukraine today, according to some estimates, the need for investments in Ukraine, and thus the possibility for investment as well, is about $500 billion. So there are vast opportunities to engage. And Ukraine today is a space that has a very strong IT sector, for example, which is fully already competing with that sector of India, and has a really growing role in IT outsourcing. Ukraine is a space for scientific and engineering base, because we do have a well-educated people that are capable of producing a high-tech industry. It can become a recreational area for Europe as well. It can become a really, it presents a lot of vast opportunities in the agricultural sector, but I think that all of these opportunities are for another investment conference, not for this discussion right now. So just to underline, Ukraine, even in these dire times, it also continues to be the country of peaceful coexistence of people from more than 100 nationalities, more than a dozen of religions, a very vast cultural diversity, and it does continue to support the interethnic and interfaith peace right now. And I think that Ukraine does deserve a chance, and what we are asking from our partners, and we appreciate the stance and the unity and solidarity of our partners from the Western civilized world right now, and we hope that they will find the possibility to run with us this marathon of our internal transition, and will support us on this way. And we are asking for support and for a chance, not because we are, again, because you have a good nature or whatever. We are asking to support the country and the people who are sincerely believing in what they are doing, and who do share the same values as you have here. And we do not seek change in the geopolitical balance of Europe. We just seek protection from aggressive attacks of those who disagree. So therefore, I hope that we will find the way to keep on responding, to keep on common unity, and to keep on pressure in making sure that the countries that disregard the international law will come back to its respect, and the countries that have chosen their path will be able to continue on what they've chosen for themselves, and they will succeed, because a successful example of this transition of Ukraine will be also a very positive and encouraging and empowering example for other nations all over the world. So I think that's that's part of also of our common interest, not only in only responding to our national interests of being protected and being defended and being secured, but also in being successful. Once being successful, it will only strengthen Europe near us, and it will strengthen and give the hope to other nations all over the world. Thank you. Is it there?
Thank you very much for
Let me just get some water.
very interesting and comprehensive.
Do I stand there? Okay.
Yes, please do. Because we don't want to let you go right yet. Thank you for this comprehensive overview of the daunting reform agenda that Ukraine is currently engaged in, a marathon as you called it. I'm sure there are lots of questions in the audience. We have approximately 20 minutes until you have to leave. So we will open up the floor now. I would like to ask you, in the interest of time, not to come with intervention, but to address question to the Vice Prime Minister, so that we would be able to include as many as possible in the discussion. And please also introduce yourself before asking the question. So we'll open the floor, and we have the first question over here.
Thank you. My name is Helge.
If you wait a second, then because we are streaming this live, so
Thank
we
you.
need the microphones.
Yes, then we can start again. My name is Odd Gunnar Skagesad. I'm retired from Norwegian Foreign Service. Thank you very much, Madam Vice Prime Minister, Madam Klympush-Tsintsadze. Yes, thank you very much for your very enlightening presentation. And I would say not only enlightening, but also very encouraging. My question is a very simple one. Is the text of your presentation available? I mean, available online or in any other format? So that
the stream can be available.
So it's possible to digest what you said. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, if you want to listen to the presentation, once again, please log on to NUPI's YouTube channel, and you will be able to hear everything over again.
I'll do that. Thank you.
First in the back, and then.
Thank you. My name is Ingrid Oppdal from Norwegian Institute for Defence Studies. I wanted to ask you about reform because I do think it's interesting, and I think it's particularly relevant to watch the reform in Ukraine, because Ukraine is such a large country, and that does perhaps pose some specific challenges. So I would be interested in perhaps a little expansion on if you see particular challenges of reforming such a large country and what they are, and also from a slightly different angle, there is a lot of creation going on when you reform, structural reform after such a long period of not doing very much with the state. But there's also, of course, destruction. And from a political perspective, what happens to, for example, when you rehire or when you hire police officers, what happens to the old officers? And the same with judges. Where do all the old stakeholders and old people go? And are there any specific challenges for the legitimacy of the state in carrying out reform? Are there any problems that could arise, for example, 5 or 10 years ahead? How do you approach that sort of challenges from the perspective of the people and perspective of the state? So I realize that these are quite complicated matters, but I also think they're quite interesting questions. So I really appreciate any answers to that. Thank you.
Thank you. We're taking
Go ahead,
one.
please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, there are a lot of challenges for reform. If there have not been, I think we would have been done by now. You know, happy and celebrating, and starting from the resilience and resistance of the system, because the system, you know, at some point immediately after the Revolution of Dignity, it was like everybody was more or less waiting and seeing. And then slowly trying to resist, and that is the that is the enemy that is not clear where it is. And that's the difficulty of it, because it's not that you see the particular problem, the particular issue, the particular person, and okay, I have to get rid of this problem. Fire someone or no, it's not that way. It's just the way the system has been operational for all these years, being targeted as being more process-oriented rather than result-oriented. And this has to be broken. And that's why I think the public administration reform is the most crucial reform for us, because it's horizontal, and depending on how we succeed with this, then all the others will be made much easier, possible, and to fulfill much easier and much faster. Yes, old people. It's not that all the old people are bad. No. Don't get me don't get misunderstood. We are conducting a competition, so people who have been working in the system, they can apply. If they are capably representing themselves, then they are welcome to work also in the system. And I think that this is also very important. It's not that everybody has to be fired. And moreover, the system of protection of civil servants in Ukraine is very strong. So it's not that easy. If you would like to have everybody out, it's not possible to have it. And that's why it takes a gradual effort. You're asking about judges. We have more than 7,000 judges that have to be going through reassessment, right? It's not that all of them are out again. So that's why it's not possible to leave the country without a judicial system at some point. So we have to take it gradually. So what happened, we have had a pilot project in the beginning of last year, half of 2016, where we reassessed. It was before the whole constitutional reform in judicial sector has started. So we had reassessed. There was a special commission, very open, very transparent work, was reassessing the activities of 350 judges. And the outcome was that about 24% of those judges that have been going for additional examination, they have found themselves not coming to the last exam, because they were not ready to prove that their way of living is correspondent to their earnings. So one. Then about 23% of the judges did not pass the exam on knowledge. Just, and they obviously are not there anymore. So we had about 50%, a little bit less, right? But about 50% by going through this procedure of reassessment of additional examination, that they left the system. So they'll be finding themselves the places in some other areas, but they will not be conducting justice or injustice rather in the court. So we have 50% of those who stayed. And we hope that these ones are already the ones that have proven, their qualification, not only qualification, but also not the dignity, but the ethical, ethical matter, and they will be remaining in the system. So we are opening up the possibility for other people to come in the system as well. So applying for these jobs, but that doesn't mean the people who are getting out, then they'll have to go to private sector. They'll have to start their own business, or they have to be hired, and have to also practice, their ability to be professional in some other field. And I think it's okay. With regard to legitimacy of the state of reform, I think that's exactly where I started from. It's about the decision for this reform. It was not the decision of a group of people. It was the demand of all those who decided and who voted for taking a path of transformation to becoming a country which is compatible with European countries and which can be an equal part of Europe. And therefore, yes, we will see some setbacks. Yes, we will see a lot of attempts of creating additional political tension and social tension in the country, internal conflict in the country. And again, there is no internal conflict in the country at this point. There are quite a few attempts to produce it, but it's not there. So I think the legitimacy is there. It's just that all of the society is tired, and we are emotionally exhausted, financially exhausted as a population, as people. And so therefore it's very easy to spur the unsatisfaction. Former Prime Minister of Lithuania just recently said somewhere, we know how to do the reforms, but we don't know how to win the elections afterwards. So maybe that's the case, I think.
That's a difficult one. The next question, okay? There, okay.
Hello, Geir Flikke, University of Oslo. Thank you for a most enlightening and instructive speech. You talked about the IDPs, 1.8 billion. Evidently that adds to the challenges that you're facing, also with the conflict and the reforms. And my question is simply, are you in want of, or do you receive any international assistance in dealing with that particular problem? Evidently, as you said, you have kept these internally displaced refugees, you should call them that, I guess, in Ukraine rather than having them flood into Europe. So again, that is something that really assists and helps Europe. So please could you elaborate on that?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, we do receive humanitarian assistance, specifically targeted with work with IDPs, with helping them to resettle, with helping them to find their new professional experiences or professional abilities to resettle in other parts of the country where they could find a new type of, or start a new job as such. So getting also some professional training. Unfortunately, I don't think that that's yet kind of an ended story, that the need for this humanitarian aid is diminishing. No. And that's why our Ministry of, we have created a special ministry also of temporary occupied territories and IDPs, where they are working right now with international organizations on seeing how we can, well, what will be the strategy to help these people on the ground for the nearest months, and I'm afraid there could be also years, because 2 years ago we didn't think that could last so long. At that point, it didn't seem that it's a lasting experience. So we were looking for quick fixes at that initial stage. And only later you understand that, unfortunately, you have to have a policy, a strategy, and how to make sure that you are helping these people at this point, and how you're reintegrating them back home once we are back with reuniting our territorial integrity and our territorial state. So there is right now a program with UN, with the Red Cross, with the other international institutions, and bilaterally with the states, that is being worked on to be presented to partners and to donors who could be of assistance there as well.
Are quickly running out of time, but we have a couple of more questions here on the second row. So we'll take those two together.
Thank you very much for very enlightening presentation. My name is Jakub Godzimirski. I'm research professor here at the Institute. I have two quick questions. One concerning the future of the energy cooperation between Ukraine and the rest of Europe. Ukraine is member of European Energy Community. Norway has becoming one of the key suppliers of gas to Ukraine. How do you see the future of this cooperation? This is the first question. The second one, touches the question you have already somehow addressed. We know how to conduct reforms, but we also know from practice that deep reforms have political cost. How do you see the future of the reform in Ukraine, having in mind that you are going to face some new elections and, according to many estimates, some changes in the political power balance in Ukraine are going to take place. We know also that reforms breed populism, and this is also a very important question.
We've had the final question.
Thank you for your speech, madam. I'm Thomas Vermes, a journalist at ABC Nyheter here in Norway. I wonder if you could please explain the background for the establishment of the blockade as to business and transport between the conflicting areas in east and the rest of Ukraine. Your assessment about it and the effects on the expected economic growth this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Then
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. With regard to energy community, first and foremost, we are very grateful that there was a possibility of Norway getting, unexpectedly so, if you look on the map, right, and you would see how the transportation systems are working, that Norway would be providing, supplying, not for free, obviously, supplying energy sources to Ukraine. And that, I think, is also creating yet additional flow of both cooperation and additional flow of understanding that is existing not only between Ukraine and the European energy community, but also with Norway. And we appreciate this a lot. Obviously, we are very much concerned right now with all the attempts of establish the political project, nothing to do with economic efficiency, Nord Stream 2. And for us, it is a worrisome tendency because we believe that it violates the whole idea and the whole set of rules of the European energy community. Moreover, it strengthens the monopoly dependence of the European consumers on one supplier from the Russian Federation. So therefore, we are hoping that there will be a sober assessment and economic and rule-based assessment of this project, which will not be then coming into force, because it's also targeting taking off like 80% of the Ukrainian transit capacity from the Russian Federation that is right now operational, that is fully working at this point. With regard to, I think that there are a lot of both political and economic discussions in the energy sphere, and it would be great if we could distinguish between the political and economic matters and really provide for the mutual interest based on diversification, based on different suppliers, on different routes of supply, and on different sources of energy, as well as working on, for us, it's a great matter of attention, like decentralization. That's where I didn't talk much about that, but the decentralization and energy efficiency, this is exactly something where we can make a lot of improvements in the nearest years, and that I think that could be seen very visibly in the nearest years. Like for the because of the financial decentralization right now, Ukrainian local communities have raised their budgets like 50% in quite a lot of cases, which means that they can provide for the services for the people on the ground much more efficiently right now. They just have to learn how to do that. What the reforms and political cost of reforms. First and foremost, I think that yes, you are right. We are fully following the trend of quite a lot of European nations right now by breeding populists in our country. It's pretty excessive, unfortunately. But I think again, coming back to the basics, the decision to move in the direction we are moving in right now was by the people. Was done by the people. And I think this doesn't have to be underestimated in the Ukrainian case. And these people who have come out to the streets for Maidan in 2013, when the association agreement wasn't signed by then head of state Yanukovych, this movement again was not expected. Everybody thought that that nobody would care, that nobody would be presenting a real disagreement with such a policy. So I think we have to bear this in mind. We have a pretty vibrant and active civil society, and even if there will be an attempt, and there will be attempts by different political forces to deviate from the path, I don't think that will be possible in the matured civil society that has started to engage very actively in the state life as of now. So I do not see how any civilizational choice of 180 degrees is possible. How is it possible to reverse? On the blockade, very quickly, I think it also corresponds to what we were just talking about with regard to populism. Yes, there were quite a few attempts also from within the country trying to push the country to kind of block out the occupied territory of the eastern part of Ukraine. And the state and the government did not want to go in that direction, because we believe this is our part of our population. These are the Ukrainian citizens. These are the people that we care about, and so therefore we did not want to take these decisions. And only after the decision was after the decision of expropriation also from the other side was done, we have understood that we have to go it wasn't that way, right? Yeah. So when the decision on the other side was done to expropriate the Ukrainian enterprises, which were producing taxes also to the Ukrainian budget. At that point, the Ukrainian state had to also react, and that's why we had to, unfortunately, take the measures which were not most wanted to, so to say, and we had to react in that matter as we did. We are ready to restore this connection. We are interested in restoring this connection with our people, and that's, I think we are continuing to work on this, but that's unfortunately so far doesn't seem to be possible to achieve. And yes, we had to reassess the expected growth with the IMF, and we did make this reassessment. And nevertheless, after this reassessment, the IMF has decided to go with yet another tranche of dispersal of yet another tranche for Ukraine. And that's first time in our history that we have the fourth tranche of the IMF support, according Ukraine being fulfilling our memorandum of understanding, our agreement with the IMF. And getting it fourth time in a row. I think Ukraine never has managed to do that too. I think that was the ceiling at this time. So I think that this is also important, which means that we will manage to ensure that this is not drastically impacting on our expectations of growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are unfortunately running out of time. As you see, there is a great interest in Norway in Ukrainian developments, and we would have liked to keep you here longer, but you have a busy program ahead
yes.
of you here in Oslo today. So thank you very much for a very interesting, comprehensive presentation and for patiently answering our questions and engaging in a discussion with us. And we here at NUPI hope to continue to follow keenly Ukrainian developments and would be very welcome to engage in a further cooperation with the embassy on those matters. So
Thank
you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I can be with you there.